Shalom. We have so many people from Marav, Baruch Hashem, through the YouTube. Okay, very good. So we're gonna go weiter. If you remember, we were talking about the background to the sugya. Always want to frame things correctly. The background to the sugya is the statement of the Mishnah that has a debate between Rameir and Chachamim. How many dayanim are necessary to judge a case of what? Of Motzi Shemra. We had a tremendous debate between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. What is the definition of Motzi Shemra? Is Motzi Shemra mean the amount? I should stop. Motzi Shemra means the amount that the husband wants to make his wife lose in terms of the ksuba. That was the way Rashi began the sugya. And Tosfos argued with a slew of arguments and questions attacking Rashi. Motzi Shemra always means a knas when the husband is considered a liar, when he's caught in a lie, and it's not talking about losing the ksuba. So the Gemara is trying to figure out, and we spent a while on trying to figure out the debate between Rameir and Chachamim, whatever Motzi Shemra means. Why would Rameir hold that it's sufficient to have 3 judges? And why is it that Rabbanan hold that you need to have 23 judges? So says the Gemara, it's totally on the following explanation. A brand new explanation, a new sugya, which is very fundamental to a new topic as we're going to explore tonight. So the Gemara says, has nothing to do with the old machlokes. Abaye Omar. It's in the middle of Chesamid Beis, 2 words from the end of the line. How many lines down, Abe?
How many lines down?
It starts
11.
11 lines down. Abaye Omar. Dechule alma chayshinan lalas. Really, if it was about laws, about rumors, about Edom coming in and spreading and now turning into a more severe case, both Rameir and Chachamim are choshesh for las. Okay, so then why don't both of them need 23 dayanim? That it's going to become a more severe case and need 23 dayanim, like we said before. Umishum kvoidim shal rishonim, and everyone's choshesh mishum kvoidim shal rishonim. What does that mean? That means if you started off with 23, and for whatever reason you weren't able to adjudicate the case with 23 dayanim, and now we're going to switch to say we're only going to be dan the dinei mominus aspect. So says the Rabbanan, what about all the Rabbanan? They're going to now, the Dayanim, they're going to leave the Bezdin. They're going to look like they're Pasal Dayanim. So we're going to keep 23 for even the dinei mominus aspect of the court case. So if that was the debate, says Abaye, that also both will be concerned. So then why is there a debate? The machlokes Rameir Chachamim in the Mishnah. One says 3 and one says 23. If everyone's choshesh mishal laz and everyone's choshesh mishum kol shel rishonim, there's got to be a reason what gives that Rameir says you only need 3 dayanim. Says the Gemara, Amar Abaye, Hochmai Askinon, Kigon de Isru Basta. What does that mean? They gave a Hasra'a. The Hasra'a is the warning that Edom have to give before you transgress the Aveira, and only then you are now obligated and now going to receive a punishment, capital punishment. And without Hasra'a, you don't get punished by the Bezdin. But the Hasra'a wasn't specific. The Hasra'a was a general Hasra'a. Oh, by the way, that's usher for you to do. It's not allowed. What do I get for it? What is the Misa? What are the details about this? The Edom didn't deliver the details. So what's the halacha with such a Hasra'a? The Edom don't go into the details. Is that enough of a Hasra'a now to give capital punishment? Or is it not enough of a Hasra'a? Says Abaye, that's the debate in our Mishnah. Reb Meir holds what? B'haitanu, this Sanya, and it's the author of this brisa. V'shar kol chayve misa shebetorah. When it comes to all the misas of the Torah, all of the other misas shebetorah, we'll explain in a second what that means. V'shar, what are we coming to exclude? When it comes to all other misas shebetorah, ein misin oisam, we only give capital punishment, we only kill them. Ela be'eda, if you have enough dayanim. Ve'edim, and you have edim. V'hasra, and you need asra. V'ad sheyodiu shu chayav misa bebezdin. And until you actually tell him that what? He's chayav misa in bezdin. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Say chachamim, it's not enough for you to tell him in the asra that he's chayav misa in bezdin. You think the Edom could just say, oh, you're being mechal Shabbos, that's capital punishment, that's something that's not allowed. Come along Rabbanan and say, still not a good asra. Person is mechal Shabbos after asra of a person just saying, you're going to get capital punishment, you're chayav misa for doing that. Insufficient asra. Why? Says the Gemara, ad sheyodiu Be'eze misu nerag. It's not good. That's what the Gemara tells us. It's so hard to actually pull off upon it. The Edom have to know the right Misa. The Edom have to give Hasra'a. And we'll learn some other details about Hasra'a. It's not even sufficient that then he has to respond. We'll talk about that in a second. But you see, according to Rabbanan, they can't even say in general, by the way, you're chayav one type of Misa. You have to know specifically which type of Misa. So comes along Abaye and says, let's plug it back into our Mishnah. What does it mean, plug it back to our Mishnah? Reb Meir is of the opinion that what? Hasra stam lo havi hasra. And therefore what? There's no way that this situation, that this case could develop into a Misa. Because all you had was hasra stam. We're not questioning the facts. The facts are right. The Edom are not wrong over here. And what? Yet what? We're going to judge only Dinim Mamna, says Reb Meir, because it's insufficient in the Hasra. Whereas Chachamim in the Mishnah disagree with Reb Meir because they hold like Rabbi Yehuda. They hold that Hasra Stam, just to say that your Chayav Misa was a sufficient Hasra, and therefore this case could lead up to Dinei Nefashos because it did meet the credentials of being a valid Hasra. Now, just to point out, just to bring things back, I don't want to spend time on this because I promised that we were moving on and we're not going to go back to the old sugyas. But just to bring back to the old sugyas for a second, the Chidush Aran points out in this stage of the Gemara, what is the Dinei Momnus that we're talking about? Well, Rabbeinu Tam and many of the Rishonim said the Motzi Shemer, classic Motzi Shemer, means the knas on the husband when the husband is proved to be a liar, right? Ask the Ran, the husband is proved to be a liar? The husband only gets a knas according to half of the Rishonim. We said 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago, the Ramban's Shita and against the Rabbeinu Tam is not in a case of Akasha, but only in a case of Azama. Why? We explained, because the knas comes in a situation where you potentially could have killed this girl, where you potentially had bullets in your gun, that you were actually trying to kill the girl. Says the Ramban, if it was only Akasha and it wasn't Azama and you never had bullets in your gun, there was never an actual capability to kill her, that's not the Parsha of Motzi Shemer. We said the Rishonim have a different translation to the Parsha and Parsha Kiseitze of Motzi Shemer. Ask the Chidush Aran in our Gemara, wait a second. So I don't understand this Gemara. How can what? How can you even judge the Knas element, the Dinei Mominus element, according to Rabbi Meir, if what? If there's an insufficient Hasra to ever lead up to Dinei Nefashos. Because if you're saying the reason why you need only 3 dayanim and you could only adjudicate the Dinei Mominus is because what? There is no Dinei Nefashos here because I'm missing the credentials for Dinei Nefashos. Because it's what? It's only Hasra Stam, which is insufficient Hasra. So then you were never able to kill the girl. So then there shouldn't be any Knas in the first place. The Knas is only in a situation, according to the Ramban, where you would be able to kill the girl. If the Hasra is insufficient, you're not able to kill the girl. Says the Ran, even I am going to have to agree in this stage of the Gemara that we go back to the Ksuba money. And it can't be talking about the $100 that the husband has to pay, because in this stage of the Gemara, according to the way I set up, that I said you only pay Knas where you're able and you were capable of potentially killing the girl, that's not going to work in this Gemara of Astra Stam Lo Avi Asra. Fine. So let's go on. So that's Abaye's explanation. So Abaye solved in America. He solved all the issues, and he said, Reb Meir and Chachamim, very simple machlokes, a classic machlokes about the need of Hasra to be detailed, Hasra to be specific. What was that statement of the way the Brisa introduced this machlokes Tanoim about the nature of Hasra? If Hasra has to be a specific Misa, or it could be a general Hasra. Says Rashi, Vishar kol chayve misos, Rashi, the fourth to last Rashi on the daf, Gabi mesis koi, the Rachmana Omar lo sachmo v'lo sechase, v'nerag b'li hasra al yedei hachmonas id. Says Rashi, the reason why this brisa starts off in such a weird way and saying, and all other misos, the hasra has to be, according to Rabbi Yehuda like this and according to Rabbanan like this, What's an all other? Meaning there's one case that you're saying is the exception to the rule. What's the exception to the rule? The exception to the rule is the halacha called mesis. What does mesis mean? Mesis is a sugya in the 7th parak of Sanhedrin, where a guy is trying to convince his chaver to be oved avodah zarah. He's a mesis la avodah zarah. I am trying to convince you to get involved in the avodah zarah. On the pasuk responding to a mesis, the way we deal with a mesis, the Torah says the following: have no rachmanos on such a person. He's trying to make people and individuals in Klal Yisrael rebel against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even though in general in Dinei Nefashos we try to save as much as possible, as the Mishnah says when it comes to Dinei Nefashos, there are distinctions between Dinei Nefashos and Dinei Mamanis based on the pasuk of V'yitzilu ha'eda. There's Hasra'a differences, the Mishnah says in the 4th parak, distinctions between Dinei Nefashos and Dinei Mamanis, all based on the fact that we want to save the lives of these people that are up to be judged in a capital court. However, there's one exception to the rule of a Dinei Nefashos where we don't say V'yitzilu ha'eda. What's that? Where the Torah says Lo sachma v'lo sachas alav, that's a mesis. Now, there is no Gemara that says what Rashi just says. Rashi says what our Gemara just meant to say, V'shar chai v'misos, it's referring to mesis because I'm going to tell you what this Gemara meant. Because mesis doesn't need any Hasra'a whatsoever.
Or it needs the lesser level of Hasra'a.
So that's not what Rashi says. You are being mechaven to a Tosfos, to Tosfos right here, and to a Yad Ramah. Good. But Rashi went further than that. Rashi says, V'nerag b'li Hasra'a. If you read Pashup Pshat in Rashi, it sounds like in Rashi, it doesn't need a Hasra'a at all. Sounds like what? Adam could be witnessing, not even telling him that he's there, and he sees him being Mesis his chaver, and what happens? Boom, let's bring him to Bezdin. What happened to all the regular rules? You have to warn me. It's so hard to kill Klal Yisrael. It's so difficult. You have to give a warning. No, that's Shar Kol Chayvei Misas. That's Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. That's classic Din Hasra. There is no Din Hasra when it comes to the exception that the Brisa was saying. Comes along Tosfos, and Tosfos. So you go get to that exactly. Hachmana means hiding the Eidim. We'll get to that in a second. That's exactly what Tosfos is getting. Rashi says, V'nerag b'li Asra al yedei hachmana sa'edim, which means I put 2 Eidim right behind the bush, and then he commits the mesis. Hachmana means I hide the Eidim. So Rashi says, why are you hiding the Eidim? Because the Eidim don't have to be maser. Because the Eidim don't have to give any warning. Because this is an exception to the rule. Because this is included in the pasuk of lo sachma v'lo sechaselav. There's no rachmanos when it comes to a mesis. A shmendrik, he's trying to ruin all of Klal Yisrael. We're going to kill this guy. We want to eradicate him. We don't want to save him. We don't want to apply v'yitzilu ha'eda. Zok Tosis, and Tosis says, Rashi's absolutely wrong. Look at Tosis. Dira maschel be'eda ve'edim v'asra. Umesis nami tzarech eda. And in terms of the amount of the dayanim, eda means the number that we get for the 23 dayanim. Fine. Elamishum dechsiv v'yitzilu eda. But the Torah says v'yitzilu eda. Umesis ein mahapchen b'schuso. When it comes to mesis, we don't try to find a schus, a merit in his, like we do by all other dinei farosh. She'ein tonin l'mesis. We don't give him, we don't advance him. Tainas, ein tonin l'mesis. We don't advance him tainas. How do we know Ein Toyin in Lamesis? Gemara is going to learn in Chav Testament Aleph. We're going to learn in Mirz Hashem sometime. Chav Testament Aleph, the Gemara learns it out from the Nachash HaKadmoni. The Nachash had the ability to have some tainas. He could have said, what do you want from me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Divrei Arav, Divrei Atalma, Divrei Mishomen. They should have listened to you, the Eibishter. Why'd they listen to me? So why didn't the Nachash say that? The Nachash didn't know to say that. So the Gemara says the Nachash was a kind of a mesis. Nachash was trying to get him to rebel. Why he was a mesis is a separate shear. Where is the avodah zarah there? Do you need avodah zarah for mesis? But the Gemara says, from that Gemara, we learn in tonal mesis. From the fact that Bezdin and HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't advance on behalf of the Nachash, that's the source in tonal mesis, because the Nachash was the first mesis in the Torah. But for the 23 dayanim, darshina me'aikra. They ain't svar l'chalik be mesis l'shar chai b'misis. There's no svar, there's no logic to be mechalik in terms of the number of the dayanim, in terms of the dinei Torah, the schusim, the tainas, so that we don't advance. But Avadi, he needs 23 dayanim, says Tosis. Ve'edim Vasra nami tzarech b'mesis. What did Tosfos disagree with? It's interesting. He doesn't quote Rashi, but he says what? He says clearly what? Ve'edim nami tzarech b'mesis. Vasra nami tzarech b'mesis. Against what Rashi says. Ela what? This is what you were talking about. Ela mishum shemachminim lo edim. But there's one difference. What do? We hide the edim. We put the edim behind the wall, behind the bush, behind the mechitza. So what? So he's not sure that there are edim there. V'gamin masrim bo leferish. Ela omrim roheach naniach avinu shebashamayim. This is what Abe was talking about. And the Hasra'a could be a lower form of Hasra'a. We're not as explicit and saying, by the way, you're going to get Misas Bezdin, even if it's Hasra'a Stam. We don't even say that much. We say, how could you do this? It's such a bad thing. And you make sure that the guy means to do what he's doing. But Tosfos says, to say something like Rashi, that you don't give the guy warning at all, you don't give any Hasra'a at all, you don't even say the statement, how can we leave the Eibishter, the Rebbeinu Shalom, and bow down to idols, to Avonim, to Eitzim? That would be no Hasra'a at all. You have to say something. So what's the machlokes? So let's look where Itai is looking, into the Mishnah on Samach Zayin Amud Aleph. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a progression. It's not necessarily that you say that. You don't. It's not like he's not fighting.
So Tosfos clearly holds that there's no progression. Tosfos clearly assumes in the Mishnah that that statement is necessary, or something equivalent to that statement is necessary. But what Itai is pointing out is that that's not exactly what the Mishnah says. Let's see the Mishnah on the top of Samach Zayin Amud Aleph in the 7th parak to see where this debate might be based on.
Tosfos says ein masrim bo leferish.
Right, but it sounds like there is some sort of Hasra'a koldu, like what Abe is saying. It might be a lower level Hasra'a, but you can't kill the guy without Hasra'a, says Tosfos.
And that has to be different than Rashi says to be Hasra'a.
Yeah, Rashi sounds like there's no Hasra'a at all. That's right. Yeah.
It's not so much as Hasra'a. It says to make sure that he has kavanah to do this. There's different levels. You can
Right, but Tosfos is calling that Hasra'a.
That means you understand what you're doing.
Good. That might be the definition of Hasra'a in general. The Rambam's lashon is lo nitna Hasra'a elo lahavchem beid shovi l'meis. The purpose of Hasra'a is for that reason. So I agree. Everyone's going to have to be maskim on some level that the Hasra'a is lowered down because of lo sachmo lo sachas alav, because we have no rachmanas on a mesis. The question is, does that mean that there's absolutely no Hasra'a, or does that mean that what? That the Hasra'a is different. So the Mishnah says as follows: Hamesis zehedyot v'hamesis zehedyot omer yeshura b'makom ploni kach ochelas kach shosa kach metiva kach meria kol chayvim yishush b'Torah ein machminin aleim chutz mizu. When it comes to all other misas b'Torah, we don't hide the edim, but when it comes here, we hide the edim. Omer l'shnayim hein edav. If he says this to two people, so those two people that are actually being what? Being the people that he's trying to convince to do Avodah Zarah, they can actually act as the Eidim themselves. Hein Eidav. They can actually be the Eidim as well. Mevinos on the Bezdin, V'soklanos, and they can schlep him to Bezdin, and they can kill him without even trying to talk to him and giving him any Hasra'a. Sounds like what Rashi says again here. Does he say Beferish here? Ein Tzarech Hasra'a. Right. Ein Tzarech Hasra'a. Exactly. He says it again. This is Shitas Rashi. Omer le'echad. Hu omer yeshli chaverim rotzim bekach. So the Nisis, the guy who was trying to convince, he says to him, I have some friends that are interested in that Avodah Zarah that you introduced to me yesterday. Im haya arum ve'enu yochel ledaber ifnehem. If he was embarrassed and he didn't want to speak in front of them, machminin lo edim, you hide the edim achori ageder, after the fence. V'hu omer lo emor masha amarta biyichud. Tell me what you told me yesterday when it was just me and you. V'hala omer, and he says to him, v'hu omer lo, and he says back to him, the nisis, heyach naniach es Elokeinu shebashamayim v'nelech v'namod eitzim v'avonim. How can I give up the Avodas Hashem and go to Avodah Zarah? Im chozer bo harei zemutav. Im amar kachi chovoseinu kach yafelon. If he says that's our chiyuv, we have to bow down to idols. This is going to be good for us. Ha'omde me'achorei ageder mevi'in oso lebezdin v'soklan oso. So those two witnesses that are hiding, they schlep him to Bezdin. So what the Yad Ramah points out on this Mishnah is something fascinating. That whole conversation between the Nises and the Mesis, the one who is trying to convince and saying, how can I leave the Rebbeinu Shalom? Why does that only happen in the second stage of the Mishnah when it's just me and you talking? How come when it's two Eidim there, when he's trying to talk to two people, there's no conversation of Heach Naniach Es Avoseinu? What happened to the beginning of the Mishnah? The end of the Mishnah, the second case, doesn't fit the first case in the case of Mesis. Do you have to have this back and forth, or do you not have to have this back and forth? That's the question of the Yad Ramah. V'im tishal, ma'ishna hocha d'boi meimer la heach naniach es alokeinu shabashamayim v'yihoder be'muto the ma'ishna hecha d'omer l'shnayim the lo tzrich l'meimer le. Why is it sometimes you need it and sometimes not? So the Yad Ramah has two approaches. His first approach is the following. You only need it in the second case. Why? Because the second case, there are no two Eidim standing there. Since there's only one Eid standing there, you need something to resemble Hasra'a Koldehu, says the Yad Ramah. And if you're just going to have him stated and you're not going to warn him at all, even if it's not going to be Hasra'a Beferish, you can't kill even a Mesis without Hasra'a. So why don't I need it when it comes to two? Because says the Yad Ramah, that lower level of Hasra'a Koldehu, exists by definition from the fact that two Eidim are sitting there. And he knows that those two Eidim can schlep him into Bezdin. So that lower level of Hasra'a, says the Yad Ramah, Chiddush, is automatic when there are two people there, because they have the capability to testify against him. Whereas when it's only one person, that's not implicit. There are no two Eidim there, they're hiding, and therefore I need to make sure that the guy is serious about this, therefore I have to have that conversation. The second opinion of the Yad Ramah has nothing to do with Hasra'a Koldehu. Not true. That's not the reason. And you know what? The Yad Ramah says maybe you don't even need Hasra'a. The Yad Ramah says the reason why there was a conversation when it comes to one and not when it comes to two is because what's the conversation saying? Are you sure? We're basically saying something right now to the guy and checking if he's going to back out. So let's say he backs out and he says, oh, you're right. You know what? I'm going to stop. So if there was only one guy, says the Yad Ramah, so that's a good tshuva. That's sincere. He realized he was wrong in his tracks and he really was choser. Says the Yad Ramah, but if there are two people there, starting that conversation is not going to convince us of a real tshuva. Because you know why he's backtracking in his words? It's because he knows he's going to get nailed with these two guys, and that's why he's backtracking. So says the Yad Ramah, that's the reason why the Mishnah didn't have this conversation in the first stage, because the conversation wouldn't do anything for us. And it's only in the second stage that the conversation actually potentially could help. Says the Yad Ramah, what's the nafkamina? Well, one nafkamina is, what happens if you don't have the conversation when there's only one guy? Let's say I have a case of a mesis, and we didn't have our back and forth between the nisis and the mesis. There's an abusive relationship here, and I just follow whatever the mesis says without actually trying to challenge him and having a conversation with him. Does he get misa or not? Says the Yad Ramah, according to the first day, he's not going to get misa. You know why? Because he's missing something crucial. What's he missing? Hasra'a. That conversation, when it comes to one aid, when it comes to one person, one nises, acts as a Hasra'a Koldehu, says the Yad Ramah. And Hasra'a is something that's necessary for what? For even a mesis. Whereas according to the second explanation of the Yad Ramah, no. Even in the case of one, if you didn't have that conversation, he's still killed. Theoretically, if you would have had the conversation, it might have been a way to save him when it comes to one person. But if you left it out, there's nothing essential that's missing. There was no Hasra'a that's now credentials to now kill the person, and there's nothing fundamental that's missing from the case. Said the Yad Ramah, that's the nafkamina. Rabosai, this is our machlokas, Rashi and Tosfos. How to read our Mishnah is these 2 days in the Yad Ramah. Is it necessary? The 2 days of the Yad Ramah is not only an nafkamina and hilchos mesis. Do you need this conversation? Do you not need this conversation? That is our very machlokas, Rashi and Tosfos, of whether or not what? A mesis needs Hasra'a, at least some sort of Hasra'a. Hasra'a Koldehu, like Like Tosfos pointed out, like you said at the beginning. Whereas Rashi holds, no, that's not the way to read the Mishnah. That conversation was nothing Hasra'dik. There was nothing about Hasra in the conversation. It was only a way to save the guy that would have helped in the case of one and not in the case of two. And that's why there was a distinction. The second day in the Arama, that's our machlekes. The only problem is, as the Minchas Chinuch points out, in Mitzvah Tov Samach Beis, Minchas Chinuch asks on our Rashi. Minchas Chinuch writes, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you need Hasra? Where does Rashi get this from? So you're going to tell me, what do you mean? The Mishnah says you could hide Eidim. Ask the Minchas Chinuch, Gemara Makkos tells us beferish that Hasra does not have to be delivered by the Eidim. Hasra could be delivered by a monkey, by anyone. Hasra could be given by anyone, as long as the Eidim heard the Hasra and heard him respond to the Hasra. So why is Rashi convinced that the fact, the Mishnah never said anything about Hasra. We had a debate in the Yad Ramah how to read the Mishnah about a conversation. That's not conclusive either. Okay, so what did the Mishnah say? Machminin. So now you're going to argue, so if the Eidim are hidden, obviously that means what? That they don't need Hasra. That's not true, says the Minchas Chinuch. The Gemara Makkos on Daf Vav Amud Beis says anyone could give Hasra. Says even not from the Eidim, even if the mailman wants to give Hasra and the Eidim are witnessing, that's good. So why is Rashi convinced that by a mesis there is no Hasra? And Rabbosai, it's a big chiddush because l'chora there should need a Hasra. So I think the answer to this question is as follows. I mentioned before that there's a debate over here between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim about what the Eidim have to say when it comes to Hasra. Is Hasra stam enough? Or is you need Eza Misa? That was the debate between Rabbi Yehuda and between Rabbi Meir and Chachamim, Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan, and we're applying that to our Mishnah, Rabbi Meir and Chachamim. But that's not sufficient. The Gemara tells us on Sanhedrin Mem Aleph that you still are not ready to deliver capital punishment just because he got Hasra, even if it was the correct type of Hasra, even if it was as detailed as you think it needs to be with the type of Misa. What are you missing? Says the Gemara in Sanhedrin Mem Aleph, learns from a pasuk, you need Yatir Atzmo Lemisa. This is fascinating. Not only do the Eidim have to know Shulchan Aruch, do the Eidim have to know exactly what type of capital punishment, and according to even some of the Minchas Chinuch writes that they might have to even know the pasuk in the Torah to tell them. That's Pashtus is not like that Minchas Chinuch. But they have to know the Misa, at least that from the Gemara. But then he needs to respond. And he needs to say, I know, V'afal pichin aniyoseh, Yatir Atzmo Lemisa. He has to respond with Hasra himself, Lemisa. Yatir Atzmo Lemisa, and that's not a debate. That's a Gemara that's learned on in Mem Aleph. The Gemara quotes a drasha for that din. Yeah.
Is there also a time period?
Yeah.
Meaning, if for example, if you wait, I think it's 30 seconds?
Toch de Dibur, yes.
So if you're done after that, you have to...
Yeah, we'll see that again. That's a Gemara in Ksubas and Daf Lamed Gimel, that if it's not Toch de Dibur, yeah. So says the Gemara learns out that Eidim Zomim don't need a Hasra, because Hasra would never be capable by Eidim Zomim, because you'll never fit it within the window of Toch de Dibur. Okay. Gemara says whenever they're going to finish their Eidus, they're going to say Ishtal and I forgot. So then, obviously, by definition, Eidim Zomim don't need Hasra. That's the Gemara in Ksubas Lamed Gimel. So the Gemara says, Hitir Atzmo Lemisa L'Manalon. Gemara in Sanhedrin Mem Aleph Amid Aleph, the first of the wide lines. Amar Rava V'Yitei Mechizkiya Amar Kra Yumas Hameis. The pasuk says Yumas Hameis. Chazal Darshan Ad Sheyatir Atzmo Lemisa. Yumas Hameis means Ad Sheyatir Atzmo Lemisa. Now that's not debated. That's a psak. That's halacha. That's accepted. So now the question is as follows: comes along Rashi, and Rashi looks at this as the following. Rashi says, I got it. You're hiding the Eidim over here. This guy has no idea that there are Eidim in this case of Mesis, right? So ask Rashi, so then there's obviously going to be a problem over here in his acceptance Lemisa. Because Ita, you can tell me as much as you want, oh, Mesis, that's not right. Why are you doing this? It's not acceptable. You should need some Hasra. Of course there's no Hasra over here. Because why? Because my accepting the Misa is going to be a joke. Because what? I don't know about what? I don't know about those Eidim that are hidden there. So says Rashi, how can you tell me that there's a halacha called Hasra'a over here? The Brisa and Sanhedrin Mem Aleph of Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa will never apply. Why? Because I don't even know about the... So you want to joke around about Hasra'a? I can joke around about Hasra'a, but it's meaningless. Because I never accepted on myself Misas Bezdin, because I never thought it would be capable to get Misas Bezdin. So my response is nothing. So therefore, Rashi obviously understood, since the response is nothing, therefore you don't need a Hasra'a at all. How do I know that Rashi held like this? Give me 1 second, Itai. I think I know what you're about to ask. How do I know that Rashi says this? I think it's a Beferish Rashi on Sanhedrin on Daf Pei Amud Beis. Sanhedrin Pei Amud Beis quotes our Brisa that we just said. It's with the Dalit of the Mesoras Hashas. V'hai tanahu desanya, the Dalit of the Mesoras Hashas, v'sharcha v'misra b'torah ema misinoson, ela be'eda ve'edim v'asra, v'ad sheyodiu shu chayev misas bezdin. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad sheyodiu be'eza misu nerak. So there's a machlokes tanoim, our machlokes tanoim, if what? If you need to know the specific misa at the asra, or you can just say you're chayev misa. By the way, the Gemara gives a little bit of a explanation where our machlokes tanoim comes from. It comes from where? It comes from a parsha in the Torah, the Mekoshesh Eitzim. At the time of the Mekoshesh Eitzim, when they gave him asra, what didn't they know, Rabosai? They didn't know what misa he was getting, and yet what? He ended up being chayev misa. Says the Gemara, Tanakama yolef mi Mekoshesh. The Tanakama learns from the Mekoshesh. He got Hasra'a. There wasn't sufficient information over there, and yet the Hasra'a was sufficient. Givaldik. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mekoshesh Hora Shah Haisa. And Rabbi Yehuda responds, no, that's not a good raya. Why? Because it was a Hora Shah, but in general, you have to know the specific Misa. Don't bring me a raya from there. Look at Rashi. Hora Shah Haisa. Val pi hadibor mechayit. V'lo gamrina minol adoris. Hol v'nafkalon hasra miyumas hameis, sheyater atzmo lamisa, osa misa mashma. Itai, what did Rashi just say? I'm talking about giving the hasra. And Rashi on Sanhedrin Pei Amud Beis, I didn't see anyone quote this, but I think this is clear where Rashi is coming from. It's Beferish or Rashi somewhere else. This Rashi explains our Rashi. Rashi is talking about a discussion of machlokes tanoim, whether or not the Eidim have to say the type of misa at the time of hasra. And Rashi gets into that conversation, a Gemara in Sanhedrin Mem Aleph, about the guy's response, Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa. What does one have to do with the other? The answer is, Rashi clearly is telling us, Hasra is for the purpose of what? Is for the purpose of the person to accept upon himself Misas Bezdin. And if Hasra is only there to formulate that, and to facilitate Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa. And if you're going to be in a situation where the person is not going to accept upon himself the Misa, so then there's not going to be Hasra. The nature of the Hasra is going to now reflect the Kabbalas Hasra. Whether or not they're all one in the hand, it's all to lead up to a Kabbalas Hasra. So the answer to the Minchas Chinas question on Rashi is very simple. Yeah, it's true. Someone else could give the Hasra. And Joe Schmo could give the Hasra. And the Gemara Makkah says that the Eidim don't have to give the Hasra. And you can hide the Eidim. So ask the Minchas Chinuch, where's Rashi coming from? How does Rashi know this? What's different about Mesis? Of course there should be Hasra. Why should you go all the way? At least, says the Minchas Chinuch, I side with Tosfos. Of course Mesis needs some sort of Hasra. How could you say you need no Hasra? So the answer is Rashi understands Hasra is different than what you thought. Hasra is only ad kama that there is going to be Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa. That's the point of Hasra. But if it's not going to lead to the Nidon and the Baldin becoming and accepting on himself a Misas Bezdin, then there must be no Hasra. So therefore it comes out by Mesis, where his Kabbalah is going to be garnished. He doesn't think that there are Eidim there, so there is no Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa. He's not preparing himself to Misa. The fact that there's no Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa told Rashi that what? There must not be Hasra in the first place. That must be part of the Chiddush of hiding the Eidim when it comes to Hasra by a Mesis. Hiding the Eidim not only tells us that
now tells us that now he's not going to be able to accept upon himself Misa because he doesn't think it's serious. And now it's now going to tell us something that the Gemara never told us. That I'm going to read the Mishnah in a way that now excludes and does not necessitate Hasra'a at all whatsoever when it comes to a Mesis. So that is l'chora, the shita of Rashi in understanding why a Mesis doesn't need Hasra'a, and that's the way he dealt with the Minchas Chinuch's kasha. But clearly the Minchas Chinuch, and not only the Minchas Chinuch, but our Tosfos, and one day in the Yad Ramah, understood that there is a need for at least some sort of Hasra'a when it comes to a Mesis. And it's not that a Mesis can just go against all the rules because of a pasuk lo sachma lo sechasa alav. You might not need as explicit Hasra'a. You might not need as a developed conversation like you usually need, but some sort of Hasra'a you classically need. So I'm asking now, so what did the other Rishonim hold? So what did the Minchas Chinuch hold? So I think it's obvious that they clearly understood, not like what we're saying, that there's two separate entities over here, which is I think you were going to say beforehand. There's a halacha in Sanhedrin Mem Aleph called Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa, that the person who's now going to get killed has to respond and has to accept upon himself that he is going to be killed. But that now is not the goal for the whole Hasra'a. There could be a separate halachic entity called being master a person. Why? Clearly Tosfos and the Minchas Chinuch, by asking on Rashi, are dividing the two entities. There might be, it's true, that over here his acceptance of Hasra'a is lacking because he doesn't think anything's serious. So to claim that there's going to be a classic Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa over here by a Mesis, I think even Tosfos and the Minchas Chinuch would agree, come on, what's serious about Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa? But now the million-dollar question is, does that now reflect that the whole Hasra'a is unnecessary over here? Comes along Tosfos and says, absolutely not. Whereas Rashi understood that the purpose of Hasra'a in general, again, this is not only relevant for Mesis, this is now going to be fundamental for our understanding of Hasra'a throughout Shas. What is the purpose of Hasra'a? Is Hasra'a just to get to that stage of Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa? And if Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa is not there, so therefore Rashi is going to throw at Hasra'a in general? Or no, is there a separate halachic entity called Hasra'a and necessitating Hasra'a, even in areas where there might not be a Kabbalas Hasra'a and Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa from the Nidon, from the person who's going to get killed? So the question is, how do we formulate, according to the other opinions that attacked Rashi, that disagree with Rashi, that understand fundamentally you cannot kill a Mesis unless what? Unless you give some sort of Hasra'a. They obviously understood Hasra'a in a different light, that Hasra'a was not just there to eventually get to a situation of Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa. So the question is, I'm not sure we're going to have enough time to really develop, because it's really the next part of the sugya. The question that we have to try to figure out is now to define Hasra'a in a different way, to now explain why the other Rishonim said, of course there's Hasra'a also by Mesis, even in a situation where there is no Achiyater Atzmo Lamisa.
Why Tosfos explains this is considered Hasra'a.
Yeah. Why Tosfos?
Why he says this is considered why is that considered Hasra'a?
So I think the answer to that. So I think the answer to that, the way the Yad Ramah developed it, is that at least we know there's some sort. We have to check about some sort of seriousness and some sort of kavana that this person has. There is a pasuk of lo sachmo lo sechasa alav, that we don't want to have the rachmanas that we do in general, but there is this new category that's introduced in Mesis of Hasra'a kol duhu. You have to know something. You have to know that he's a little bit intentional, that he's aware about what he's doing, and he has some sort of kavan. If you didn't even have that conversation, says Tosfos, that would be mechusar and Hasra'a. So how to explain what the levels are, what's Hasra'a kol duhu, what's Hasra'a legamre in all kol Torah kula, there's clearly a distinction between classic Hasra'a and this Hasra'a. But fundamentally, we're understanding from Tosfos is that even Mesis, Tosfos could never envision a case that you would give Misas Bezdin and have absolutely no Hasra'a. Clearly, Tosos divorced Hasra'a from Achiyat Ratzon Lamisa.
Does Rashi have a case of Mesis and Mediyah B'Shogeg, or it's impossible? Because that could be what it hinges on. That Tosos is saying you could have a Mesis and Mediyah B'Shogeg, so you still get
So beautiful. So that's where we're getting to. So what Abe's pointing out is that possibly the other purpose of Hasra'a might just be something about clarifying, nothing to do with Achiyat Ratzon Lamisa, something clarifying to the Bezdin about the nature of your Avera. What's your state of mind during the Avera? But in order to understand that, we need to develop and we need to understand a little bit more of Hasra'a. And in Mirz Hashem, ultimately, once we finish the next Gemara, we will shed light on this Tosas to understand that Tosas had a fundamental machloikas with Rashi, and we're going to see other Rishonim as well in their understanding of what the purpose of Hasra'a by every Maisa Avera, and has nothing to do with the din of Kabbalahs of Achiyat Ratzon Lamisa. So even Mesis needs it, because technically you're insufficient in your Maisa Avera unless you demonstrate to us that you did the Avera even after Hasra'a. So let's, in the last few minutes, we'll start the answer. Let's read the next Gemara. Brand new Gemara. Nothing to do with it, but it's going to shed a lot of light on this idea of Hasra'a. What's the next Gemara? Rav Papa Amar. What's Rav Papa Amar? It's a new Amora. To solve what? To solve the question that we've already had. What? Ula, Rava, Abaye, Rav Papa. So we have the fourth possible explanation to the Machlokas Tanoim of Rameir Chachamim, why they debate whether Motzi Shemer is 3 or 23 Dayanim. Rav Papa Amar, Hacha Ba'isha Chaveira Askina. Oh, this is a Gavaldik Gemara. This is talking about a woman Talmud Chacham. A woman Talmud Chacham. That what? She knows all the halachas. She's a baki in halacha. The kamiflagi beplugta de Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbanan. And the machloikis is between Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. What's the machloikis Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan? Disanya Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Omer Chaver ein tzarech Hasra'a. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda says a chaver, person who's a Talmud Chacham, a person who knows all the laws, doesn't need Hasra'a. Okay, and what do Rabbanan hold? Rabbanan hold even a chaver needs Hasra'a. Rabbanan hold even a chaver needs Hasra'a. So what's the machlekes? We'll plug it in. So the machlekes in our Gemara is very simple. It's the old machlekes. It was a case of what? No Hasra'a, but it was an Isha Chavera. So it's a machlokes tanoim. In Isha Chavera, does she need Hasra'a? Could she get killed with such a situation, or does she not need Hasra'a? If you hold a chaver needs Hasra'a, so then this person's lacking Hasra'a. You don't have the credentials to kill. If you hold a chaver and a chavera don't need Hasra'a because they know the laws anyways, so then what? So then over here you could still have Mises Bezin 23 dayanim. They're still dealing nefashos over here. You have the Rambams that you copied. Very good. So how do we paskin? Anyone needs?
One more?
Yeah. Comes along the Rambam in Perek Yud Beis Halacha Beis. Everyone have it? It's on page Nun Beis. There's two sides over here. There's two Rambams because we're going to need the other Rambam. So hold on to the Rambams for next week. Echad Talmud Chacham ve'echad Am Haaretz tzarech Hasra'a. Stop. Don't read anymore. Who did the Rambam just paskin like? Echad Talmud Chacham ve'echad Am Haaretz. Like Chachamim. Need Hasra'a. Go on. Why? I'll explain to you why. Very simple. Shloit nit Hasra'a el lahavchem ben shoygeg lemezid shema shoygeg haya. Anyone bothered by the Rambam? So the Rambam's passing a chaver tzarech Hasra'a. That's fine. The Rambam passing like Chacham against Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. I would actually expect the Rambam to pass like Chacham Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. Usually when it's Chacham against one Shita Natanoim, he should pass like the Chacham. No, nothing to do with Shiyat Otzvi. Let's go back to the Gemara. The Gemara says as follows: Rav Papa Amar, what's the debate between Rameir and Chachamim? It's the old machloikis between Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbanan. What's the old machloikis between Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbanan? That what? Chaver tzarech Hasra'a or chaver ein tzarech Hasra'a? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda says chaver ein tzarech Hasra'a. Why?
He knows everything.
Why? Read the Lashon of the Gemara. Let's go back to the Rambam. Echad Talmud Chacham ve'echad Amar tzarech Hasra'a. Who's the Rambam paskening like? like Rabbanon. But he gives the reason of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Frak the Kesef Mishnah. Parakam the Sanhedrin Gabi plug the Rabbi Rabbanon, B'motzi Shemra, Rav Papa Amar Achabash Chaver Eskinan. Become if we plug the Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanon. The Sanhedrin Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Amar Chaver. Right. Well, so where does he say it? Pirshat. Yesh l'tmoa Rabbeinu sheposik Rabbanon the Chaver Nami Tzarech Hasra'a. The Rambam's making a new Gemara. He's taking the reason that sounded good and that sounded good and we're going to take that. What's going on over here? This is a big problem. So the Kesef Mishnah wants to develop something over here. The Maggid Mishnah elsewhere says the same things. Yesh lomer de Rabbanon nami have Hasra'a lahavchin ben shogi lemezid elatahave gegavna achriti. Could be the Rambam held. Everyone agreed fundamentally that the purpose for Hasra'a is what? To differentiate whether or not the Avaryan and the transgressor is what? Is B'shogig or B'mezid. Just what? There are different types of shogigs and there are different types of mezids. What does that mean? Chaver v'am ha'aretz kagon lo'odia shechaticha zu chelev o shayom Shabbos. Chaver, by definition, might be missing information. Usually when you have a certain Talmud Chacham, usually their heads are in the books. Usually they're not aware of the facts. They don't know what's fleshik, what's milchik. They don't know the way things taste. So I need some sort of Hasra'a for the guy. By the way, you should know, this was cooked in this oven. This was cooked by this person. This is chalev. This is the guy. Otherwise, the guy would go down, he'd go back to his learning. He's not going to know. So the Rambam says even a chaver needs Hasra'a. Why? Not that he has to know this is a malacha on Shabbos. This is the din in Yeridea. This is the din in Isser. No, that the Chacham know. He has to know the facts. So says the Kesef Mishnah, the Rambam borrowed Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda's terms because what? Because even in a chaver, you have to have some shogeg amazid. One's in the mitzias and one's in the halachas. But Abe doesn't like it. I don't like it either. It's come on. The Rambam's using the Lashonos of the Gemara, and that's what the Rambam's saying. So Mir Hashem next week, we'll try to develop that answer, and then Mir Hashem will come, hopefully, to a new analysis and understanding what the nature of Hasra'a is, that it would even apply in Mesis, and it would exist in a situation, no matter what the guy's going to respond, you need Hasra'a in order to kill an individual.